Hi everyone, this story is called Curly, Wurly and the Creatures of the Deep. Mr. Ray and Freddy the fisherman were out at sea, on board Mr. Ray's boat, the Jumping Jellyfish. Sailing around Dolphin Point, Mr. Ray checked the buoys in the water, whilst Freddy hauled in the crab pots, which had been sitting on the seabed. There was a surprise waiting inside one of the pots. Freddy called for Mr. Ray's help. "Hurry, hurry, come and see this," he shouted. A strange-looking creature was looking up at Freddy. "What is it?" he asked curiously. "That's a nautilus," replied Mr. Ray. "They live in the deep ocean, close to coral reefs. It's like a living fossil. It uses jet propulsion to move through the water. It feeds on shellfish like clams, using its tentacles to sift out food amongst the coral. It's a truly fascinating creature." Mr. Ray knew his stuff. Meanwhile, Freddy took a photo of the nautilus, before carefully returning it to the water. After collecting all of the remaining crab pots, the jumping jellyfish sailed safely back into Barracuda Bay Harbour. Freddy helped to unload the crab pots onto the quay. Mr. Lobster, the lighthouse keeper, was enjoying a lovely mug of hot cocoa in Mrs. Crabbley's cafe. Looking out the window, he could see Freddy working hard, carrying the heavy pots. Freddy waved to grab Mr. Lobster's attention, and the lighthouse keeper went to meet him. "Hello, Freddy, you look excited. Everything okay?" he asked. "Yes, we caught a nautilus in one of our pots," he said. Mr. Lobster was startled. "Did you say a nautilus?" he asked. "Yes, look, I took a photo of it," replied Freddy. "Amazing." Mr. Lobster was thinking about something, and he made a phone call. A few days later, Mr. Lobster was at the hangar, where Curly and Wurly were being washed and cleaned. A special delivery arrived, delivered by a helicopter. Mr. Lobster had a big smile on his face. "Guess what is inside here?" he said happily. Curly and Wurly wondered what it could be. It was a submarine! Amazing! "I'm going on an underwater adventure," smiled Mr. Lobster happily. "I'm going to dive down into the deep and see what creatures live there." "I wish I could come with you," said Curly. "You'd be crushed by the pressure of the water in seconds," said Mr. Lobster. "You are much safer in the air." But Mr. Lobster did need the plane's help to lower the submarine into the sea, so Curly and Wurly carried it far out beyond the bay and the lighthouse. Mr. Lobster was going to explore the Barracuda Trench, a deep part of the ocean close to the mainland. Curly and Wurly carefully lowered the submarine. Mr. Lobster took a good look around before closing the hatch. Then he began his descent down into the murky depths of the ocean. Mr. Lobster had reached the twilight zone, 600 feet below the surface. Here, light is very, very faint. It is home to more numbers of fish than any other part of the ocean. It is also home to lots and lots of squid. Mr. Lobster watched on as a large shoal of predatory Humboldt squid attacked a giant bait ball of little lanternfish. The squid attacked from all angles. It was incredible! Mr. Lobster was very impressed. Other strange-looking creatures lived down in the twilight zone. Odd-looking jellyfish and gulper eels looking menacely with their gigantic mouths wide open. Next, Mr. Lobster got spooked when he spotted a very scary-looking anglerfish swimming up to his window in the submarine. Now that is the scariest-looking fish I've ever seen. Soon, Mr. Lobster and the submarine descended deeper. It was now entering the midnight zone, below 3,000 feet. It's so dark down here, no sunlight can reach it. Creatures living in the midnight zone live in total darkness. The water pressure is so strong, only particular animals can survive at such depths. Animals such as the vampire squid and the Dumbo octopus make their home in the midnight zone, hunting for their prey just above the sea floor. Eventually, Mr. Lobster and the submarine reached the sea floor. Even as far down as here, creatures of the deep managed to survive. Slowly moving their way across the floor, Mr. Lobster could see spider crabs and shrimps. There were also sea cucumbers, giant sponges and tube worms. Amazing! But there was one last big surprise waiting for Mr. Lobster. A giant 6-gill shark swimming effortlessly across the sea floor, looking for its next meal. "Wow, would you look at that?" smiled the lighthouse keeper happily. Now it was time to return to the surface. It took a few hours for the submarine to emerge. Curly and Wurly were waiting patiently. Mr. Lobster opened up the hatch. "Aha! Daylight!" he laughed. Mr. Ray and Freddy were also on hand to bring Mr. Lobster and the submarine back to the harbour. "Welcome back," joked Mr. Ray. "How was your adventure?" Secretly, Mr. Lobster had taken his underwater camera with him and took lots of photos. He invited all of his friends to Mrs. Crabbley's cafe to tell them all about his trip down to the deep. Mr. Lobster wanted to go again, so he did, after a lovely mug of hot cocoa and a chocolate biscuit. And that's the end of the story. Hope you enjoyed it. See you again next time.